The courthouse doesn't hum, it holds its breath. A hallway stretched in silence, long and dim under flickering fluorescent lights. Government beige lines the walls like bruised parchment, worn from decades of whispered deals and broken testimonies. Every heel click echoes like a gunshot. Every door creak sounds like a verdict. A door closes behind them, soft, controlled. Click. But it lands heavy, like a final period at the end of a secret. Heads turn. The silence deepens. Jennifer Lopez stands at the far end of the corridor. She's alone, not flanked by publicists or dressed in the armor of celebrity. Her posture is precise, still, not fragile, but unshakably composed. The kind of stillness that comes after the storm. Behind her, morning light seeps through a frost-bitten window, painting her in a silhouette that could be mistaken for marble. Her chin slightly angled, she watches something no one else can see. Memory, maybe. Regret. A man in a navy suit, one of Diddy's attorneys, stops walking, jaw locked, papers gripped too tight in one hand. He doesn't say her name. Instead, under his breath, almost involuntarily, he didn't see this coming. Down the corridor, a woman from the press pool tries to mouth her name, but it falters halfway through. Not J.Lo. That name is for red carpets and halftime shows. This isn't that. Today, she's Jennifer. And Jennifer doesn't flinch when they stare. She only breathes deeper, as if she's finally, after years filling her lungs with air she once denied herself. A court aide passes her gently, not making eye contact. Everyone in this hallway has seen powerful men unravel, but rarely like this, and never because of her. Then it happens, a glance exchanged, a moment that hovers midair. Her eyes meet someone's, we don't know who. Maybe an old lawyer, maybe an old ghost. There's grief there, or maybe it's guilt, or maybe the two have always looked the same. And just before the frame cuts to black, a voice murmurs, not in accusation, but in understanding. Some people come to court for justice. Others come to finish what silence began. The courthouse moves like molasses when truth is in the air. The second-floor clerks barely look up as a paralegal hands over a sealed envelope, her fingertips trembling slightly, though she tries to hide it behind practiced efficiency. The file is thick, old paper, old ink, time pressing through its seams. It's marked simply, Supplemental Testimony, 2001, New York. No public mention of what's inside, but above the heading, in unignorable type, a name glows like a match in a cave. Lopez, Jennifer. There's no outburst, no audible gasp. That would be too simple. Instead, stillness. A junior attorney from Diddy's team, just out of law school, sees the name first. He pauses, doesn't blink, doesn't breathe. His superior notices his frozen stare and walks over, glancing down at the page. A single exhale escapes him, the kind people make when they've just remembered something they tried hard to forget. Whispers don't start in the courtroom. They start in the pause. The moment when papers stop rustling, when high heels halt mid-stride, when someone sets down their coffee cup with uncharacteristic care, as if afraid to disturb the air around them. And then a phone buzzes. Not loud, just one. But it's enough. A second later, 3 more. Silent vibrations like distant thunder before the lightning arrives. The clerk slips the document into a labeled folder. It's technically public now, but no one rushes to print it. Not yet. It's not the content they fear. It's the implication. A former bodyguard, now mostly forgotten by the media, exits the courtroom early. He doesn't speak, doesn't look at the cameras. His hands are shaking, not visibly, but enough that he holds them behind his back. He walks faster than necessary, away from the building, towards something unspoken. Downstairs, TMZ hasn't left yet. Most of the press packed up hours ago, having assumed today would be procedural. But a lone cameraman leans against the barricade, sipping stale coffee, staring at the door like it owes him something. He doesn't know what's happened, not yet, but the courthouse feels different. That's the thing about shifts like these. They don't announce themselves. They hum in the walls. They settle in the eyes of people who were once very good at pretending they saw nothing. And still, no Diddy, no SUV, no entourage, no statement, no scheduled appearance. A courtroom officer mutters to his colleague, "Did he know she was coming forward?" The other one doesn't answer. He just shrugs, like a man who's seen the tide change too many times to count. Back in the hallway, a lawyer closes a file slowly, reverently, like someone tucking away a photograph of the dead. The wheels are moving now. Something has been set loose, not with a shout, but with a name quietly typed on an old document. A name everyone knew, but never like this. It was one of those December nights where Manhattan feels like a stage set. The kind where glamour walks beside danger, and no one can tell the difference in the dark. The city was swollen with lights, all flashing like camera bulbs. The air thick with cold and perfume. Jennifer steps out of a black SUV that doesn't belong to her. Not through the front entrance of Club New York. That's for photos, for fans. Tonight she enters through the back alley, where dumpsters steam and rats scatter from headlights. Diddy walks ahead, fast and sure, his collar up, phone glued to one ear. A bodyguard opens the door without looking up. She's in heels too thin for cracked pavement. A long white coat drapes around her like a cloak, like a lie waiting to be told. Her earrings glint under the security lights. A heartbeat later, the alley door swings open, and they're inside. Into the music, into the fog, into something that already feels wrong. Inside, the club thrums with heat and expensive bodies. People laugh too loud, too fast. Booths smell like liquor and secrets. Diddy is smiling, but not really. It's the kind of smile that stretches over tension, like lacquer over broken wood. Jennifer leans in when he whispers, but the bass is too loud to catch the words. Still, she nods. That's what she does around him. She nods. The booth is roped off, velvet and arrogance. Someone brings bottles. Someone else brings someone else. Names blur. Time doesn't move like it should. Then, the shift. The kind of shift that isn't sound, but a change in the air. A man approaches. Another follows. Words are exchanged. Fast, low, angry. A glass breaks. Then, gunfire. Not a pop. Not a bang. A crack. Like bones snapping. Like the night tearing open. Screams. Chaos. People hit the floor. Some hit each other. A woman in red stumbles and vanishes into bodies. Jennifer freezes. A flash of white light, a strobe or a muzzle, blinds her for a half second. She can't tell where the shots came from, only that they're not finished. Diddy grabs her, not gently, not protectively, tightly. His fingers wrap around her wrist like a man holding on to the edge of a cliff. Don't say anything. His voice doesn't waver. It hisses. It orders. It's not a request. She looks down. Blood is pooling near the DJ booth. Dark, almost black under the strobe lights. Someone's screaming. Someone else is trying not to. She doesn't know whose blood it is. She only knows it's not hers. But somehow, she feels stained anyway. They move, fast, rehearsed. Like they've done this before. Maybe not this exactly, but something close. Down the back hallway, past the kitchen. The smell of bleach and raw meat is thick, nauseating. A jacket, not hers, is shoved into a trash bin. A gun. She doesn't ask. She doesn't look. Outside, the alley is colder now. Sirens scream in the distance, growing closer. They slide into the car. The ride is dead silent. Diddy doesn't speak. Neither does she. The driver knows better. Her wrist is starting to bruise. Jennifer stares out the window, watching Manhattan blur. The city looks different now. She feels like she's outside of herself, watching a version of her slip away. Back at his penthouse, the marble floors are warm. The lights are dimmed to seduce, but no one's seducing anyone. She walks to the mirror in the powder room, mascara smudged, lipstick like a scar. Her reflection looks blurred, like a woman who ran through smoke. Her lips part. She thinks she hears someone else whispering through her mouth. What did I just help cover up? She doesn't cry. She doesn't scream. She just presses a towel against her lips slowly, as if trying to erase the answer before it surfaces. Behind her, through the wall, she can hear Diddy on the phone. Calm, measured, already crafting the version of the night that would be remembered or forgotten, the version where no one really saw anything. And just like that, the silence begins. It doesn't hit the headlines first. It hits the elevators. An assistant at the Mercer fumbles her phone after reading a text, glances around nervously, then leans into another woman's ear. Just one name, mouthed like confession. Jennifer. That's all she says. That's all she needs to say. In hotel lobbies across Manhattan, stylists start ghosting their 2 p.m.s. Publicists cancel fittings for personal reasons. One well-known glam team quietly pulls out of an award show last minute. No explanation, no refund demanded, because by now, they've all heard it. Jennifer Lopez, not as a headline, not as a song, not as a Met Gala showstopper, but as a witness in a federal courtroom, named, sealed, unsealed. Her testimony tethered not to fame, but to fear. And suddenly, people remember what fear smells like. A photo resurfaces, grainy, from 2003. It wasn't a scandal at the time, just another paparazzi snap as she ducked into a car. Bronze skin, glossy lips, perfect hair. But now in the corner of the frame, just above the cheekbone, something faint, a shadow, or maybe not. Maybe something beneath the foundation, something purple. Reddit threads spring up like wildflowers. Someone zooms in, circles the mark. Someone else digs up the video from that week's TRL appearance. She's blinking too much, avoiding the camera, laughing on cue, but it doesn't reach her eyes. An anonymous backup dancer posts a black screen to Instagram. No name, no context, just 2 words, about time. Within minutes, it's screenshotted, reposted, deleted, and still, everyone has it. Journalists, especially the ones who'd once called her diva, difficult, dramatic, start pulling out old press kits, dusty liner notes, lyrics they once dismissed as vague or pop fluff. One writer rereads the 2002 album, track 5, Walk Away. She remembers brushing off the line, his hands were velvet until they weren't, as metaphor. But was it? Or was it code? In studios, old producers start texting each other. You ever notice how she never stayed long in the room when he walked in? Remember the rehearsal with the broken champagne glass? No one says his name. They don't need to. Meanwhile, Diddy's estate outside Beverly Hills becomes a point of fixation. Not from news vans, not yet, but from telephoto lenses, paparazzi and SUVs, quiet and patient. They wait, but the gate doesn't open. The intercom buzzes, no response. He hasn't been seen since Jennifer stepped into that courthouse, not even through tinted glass. And when the silence lasts too long, people start listening to it. In offices at Rock Nation, Spotify, and Rolling Stone, playlists begin quietly reshuffling. 1 or 2 songs go missing, not removed, just unpinned. People are not making accusations, not yet. They're making space. They're creating distance, because now the whispers are too loud to ignore. One intern posts a TikTok, a silent montage of J.Lo in early 2000s interviews, edited with a soft piano track. In each clip, she flinches when someone walks behind her. In one, she starts to speak and stops. In another, she nods before the question ends. The comments pour in. We missed it. She was trying to say something without saying it. The silence wasn't hers, it was forced. Back at the courthouse, someone leaves a post-it on a bench outside the main entrance, scribbled in black Sharpie. We hear you now. They call him only as Micah W. No last name, no photo, no introduction package on social media. Just a man summoned by subpoena who used to walk through the smoke behind the stage and capture what others were told to forget. Micah walks into the courtroom like someone entering a church after decades of silence, not to pray, just to remember. His hands tremble as he adjusts the lapels of his jacket. Not from fear exactly, something older, like a man who has held too many moments in his chest for too long. He doesn't look at Diddy, not once. He asks for water before speaking, then doesn't touch it. His voice is quiet, like he's still afraid of being overheard, even here, even now. I was the tour photographer from 1999 to 2002, he begins without ceremony. They didn't really notice me, which is why I saw so much. The courtroom stills. Even the sound tech leans forward slightly, pretending to adjust the mic. He continues. There was a night, he says. I don't remember the city. I stopped remembering cities. Maybe Atlanta, maybe Miami. Doesn't matter. What I remember is the lobby. He breathes, lips pressed tight like he's measuring which memories are safe enough to say aloud. Jennifer was sitting alone. It was late. 1 a.m., maybe. She had her coat on, not wrapped around her, but hanging. She wasn't cold. She was done with something. I remember the doorman looking away. On purpose. Micah's voice dips lower. Upstairs I heard yelling. Not words, just noise. Male. Loud. Sharp. He doesn't say the name. No one needs him to. There was a crash. Something ceramic. A vase, I think. A tall one. Blue. I saw the pieces later. A murmur in the back row. A lawyer raises a brow. The judge doesn't interrupt. Micah folds his hands together like he's trying to keep them from flying away. I lifted my camera. Out of instinct. Out of worry. He hesitates. I shouldn't have. I almost didn't. The prosecution asks gently, Did you take the photo? Micah nods once. Yes. They ask if he published it. He shakes his head. Number I couldn't. And then with a quiet gesture, hands trembling but eyes locked forward, Micah opens the manila folder. He pulls out a printed photograph. Matte, 8 by 10. It's passed to the bench, then to the screens. And the courtroom stops breathing. Jennifer Lopez, sitting on the bottom step of a hotel stairwell. No glamour, no spotlight, hair damp, eyes red, but not from crying, from lack of sleep or too much of it. Her mouth is parted, but not in speech. Her hands rest on her knees like she's forgotten they belong to her. She's not crying, she's not screaming, she's absent. And in that absence, every story she never told is suddenly visible. Micah doesn't speak for several moments. The photo says what he couldn't for 20 years. Then quietly, "She didn't know I took it." I left the tour 3 weeks later. The defense shifts in their chairs but doesn't cross-examine. Micah asks softly if he can be excused. No one stops him. As he leaves, the judge calls for a recess. People rise, but no one speaks. Because in the silence that follows Micah's testimony, there is only one image now burned into the room. A woman on a staircase, not breaking down, but already broken. And sometimes the photos that aren't published are the ones that tell the truth. She doesn't wear makeup. Her hair is pulled back, not styled. A simple black blouse, sleeves buttoned, no rings, no glint of celebrity. Just Jennifer, not J.Lo, not the icon, the woman beneath the billboard. She steps into the witness box with the gait of someone walking barefoot over glass. Cautious, practiced, but necessary. The courtroom hushes, and not out of etiquette. It's something else. Reverence, maybe, or disbelief that she's really here. Not on a screen, not in a magazine spread, but under oath. She doesn't glance at him. She doesn't have to. She breathes once, then speaks. Her voice is low, not a whisper, not a performance. Just clean, honest, unfiltered. "I was 30, and in love and afraid." Silence. "He wasn't like the others. He didn't chase me. He pulled me, like tide pulls shore. You don't notice until your ankles are gone." A few jurors shift slightly, not out of discomfort, but something closer to recognition. "He was the storm I thought I could outdance. That's what I told myself, that my moves would save me." She pauses. The room holds its breath. "He didn't hit me, not with fists. That would have been too obvious. He used silence, distance, words made of ice. Control doesn't always wear bruises." The judge doesn't interrupt. No one does. Not even Diddy's lawyers. I'd stand in front of cameras and smile. I'd wear the diamonds, the dresses, but inside I was shrinking. Every yes was a no I didn't know how to say. She swallows. Her eyes don't water, but you can feel the tear beneath them. There was one night, New York, the shooting. You all know the headlines. You know what the papers said. She leans forward slightly, her hands clasped. "What you don't know is what happened in the alley after. When he looked at me, not like a man looks at someone he loves, but like a king looks at a pawn. He said, 'Don't say anything.' That was the command, not a request. The words land like stone on marble. And I didn't say anything. Not that night. Not for years, because I thought silence was survival. But silence is submission." She lets that linger, lets it hurt. I knew things that could end men, but I kept asking, what would it do to me? My career? My family? My name? One juror looks down, pen frozen mid-word. When you're famous, a woman of color, you don't get to be fragile. You don't get to say help. You get to say, "I'm fine," and smile while bleeding. Now her voice wavers, not cracked, but tired. "I wore my power like perfume, strong enough to cover the fear." The prosecutor asks gently, "Why now, Ms. Lopez?" She looks up, and for the first time meets the defendant's eyes. "Because I realized I wasn't the only one he silenced. And if I didn't speak now, I'd be helping him keep every voice quiet. And I won't do that anymore." She straightens her back, that signature poise, not from rehearsal but from resolve. "He taught me how to disappear in plain sight, and now I'm teaching myself how to be seen." One final breath. This isn't revenge. This is release. For me, for the girl on the staircase, for all the women who looked in the mirror and whispered, "What did I just help cover up?" She folds her hands. Done. The courtroom doesn't move. The stenographer stops typing, just for a second to feel it. Because this isn't just testimony, it's a resurrection of a voice, of a truth, of a woman America thought they already knew. But today, they're hearing her for the first time. The man once called King of the City disappears. Not dramatically, not in handcuffs or flashbulbs, but in erosion. Day 4 of testimony and Diddy is absent. Not rescheduled, not conflicted, Just absent. His chair at the defense table sits pushed back, slightly askew, like someone left in a hurry and didn't plan to return. The official statement from his legal team arrives mid-morning. A single paragraph. Vague. Sterile. Mr. Combs is attending to personal matters and remains committed to due process. It doesn't say where he is. It doesn't say why. And it doesn't sound like him. Because the man who once flooded stages with charisma now sends hollow echoes through press releases written by interns. TMZ catches the first glimpse. Shaky footage from behind a hangar gate at Van Nuys Airport. A black SUV, a private jet idling, a figure in a hoodie hunched forward, hands in pockets. Zoom in and you see him, Sean Combs, unshaven, lips dry, eyes darting, shoulders up like he's bracing for an impact that's already passed. He doesn't wave. He doesn't run. He just boards. No entourage, no model girlfriend, no one yelling, "Let's go." Just him, and a silence heavy enough to crack ribs. Later that night, a grainy security clip leaks. 3:12 a.m., time-stamped. Diddy pacing inside a recording studio in Hollywood. Alone. No sound but the echo of his own footfalls on polished concrete. He walks in circles. Once, twice, over and over. His hands shake. Once, he clutches a couch pillow like it's an anchor. He mutters something. Low. Can't hear what. The man who once orchestrated a cultural empire can't finish a voicemail now. By morning, 2 of his lawyers filed to withdraw representation. Irreconcilable breakdown of communication. Legal speak for, "We can't clean this up." His publicist's office phone rings to voicemail. An assistant for a major label replies with a single text, "He's done. We all know it." And still, no statement from Diddy himself. No denial. No rage. No fight. Just the sound of a legend crumbling without spectacle. No Grammy stage to reclaim the moment. No Instagram caption to rewrite the narrative. Just retreat, fading in real time. He doesn't attend the next hearing. And for the first time in decades, the world sees Sean Combs not as the mogul, the myth, the movement, but as a man unable to speak in his own defense. The silence that once protected him now surrounds him like quicksand. And the empire he built not with bricks, but bravado, begins to collapse. Brickless, wordless, unclaimed. It doesn't begin with a headline. It begins with a disappearance. A photo vanishes from Beyoncé's Instagram story. A throwback image, weeks old, of a party once thought glamorous. Diddy in the background, arms raised mid-laugh. Gone now, quietly, without comment. No replacement, no caption, just gone. And the silence spreads like smoke. By the end of the day, his name starts evaporating from places it had once been engraved. A-list names begin unfollowing his account. Not en masse, not performatively, but one by one, with surgical precision. Drake, Pharrell, Mary J. Blige. Each departure a soft bell toll. No statements, no drama, just subtraction. In an era obsessed with the loudest take, it's the quiet that damns. There's no hashtag war, no public feud, just absence. A controlled burn of association, old interviews resurface, but not his, hers. Clips of Jennifer years ago, laughing nervously on late-night shows, eyes darting away, saying things like, "It was a different time," or "I can't really talk about that night." Now those lines feel loaded. Now they're being reshared with a reverence usually reserved for eulogies. She was telling us then. We just weren't listening. One tweet reads, with 3 million likes. The tone online is not outrage. It's elegy. Twitter feels like a funeral in real time, but not for a man, for a myth, for the idea of Diddy, the kingmaker, the untouchable, the story he controlled for decades with money, charm, and legacy. That story is unraveling, and no one is trying to stitch it back up. A major streaming platform quietly halts a planned retrospective series on Bad Boy Records. Another removes a curated playlist. Editorials are pulled. Publicists decline to comment. Everyone moves in reverse, away. Even Revolt, the network he founded, issues a soft clarification. We remain committed to amplifying black voices. That's all. His name no longer needed. In Hollywood, power is rarely taken. It's relinquished, first in whispers, then in contracts. By Friday, a stylist known for working with Diddy posts a black square, captionless. Hours later, it's replaced by a quote from Audre Lorde. "Your silence will not protect you." Not directed, not named, but no one's confused. In the digital age, we don't need to see the body to know a legend has died. The timeline becomes the autopsy. Even his peers, men who once fought to sit beside him, stay silent, because to speak for him now is to risk being remembered with him. No one says canceled. They say, we didn't know. They say, maybe we always did. And Jennifer, she says nothing. She posts a video of ocean waves, sound on, no words, no face, just water, crashing, pulling back, crashing again. And in the comments, a cascade of blue hearts, broken chains, and one sentence repeated thousands of times, we hear you now. What began as a whisper now expands like breath on glass, revealing what was always there, hidden beneath. The courtroom grows heavier, not louder, not more chaotic, just heavier, like truth pressing in from every wall, thickening the air. On the docket now are new names, not famous ones, but familiar to those who've watched from the edges. A former backup dancer, a hairstylist, an assistant who once carried two phones, one for business, one for secrets, a security guard who never made eye contact in the hallway. One by one, they step into the light. Each story is small, a sliver, a slant, an incident never meant to surface, but together they form something undeniable. A former tour manager reads from his notebook, entries scribbled in pencil between flights. Suite 8E, 4 a.m., loud argument. She didn't come to rehearsal next morning. Paid in cash for new rug, red stain on the old one. There's no dramatic gasp, no jury fainting, just the slow, sickening realization that this was never one event. This was architecture. The prosecution lays out a diagram, not of a crime scene, but of a mansion. Floor plans, guest rooms, surveillance blind spots. Red marker circles the back stairwell. Another mark at the east corridor, where cameras mysteriously lost signal during parties. You knew where not to scream, one witness says. She's a makeup artist, hands folded tight in her lap. She recounts being at the house in 2004, hiding in a bathroom as yelling echoed through the walls. Through the vents. I knew the difference between anger and danger, she says. The air felt different that night. Receipts follow. Financial documents labeled consulting fees cross the screen. Amounts in the tens of thousands, paid to people with no titles. One name reappears 3 times. A former stylist who hasn't worked in years. When contacted, they say nothing, but they lawyer up the next day. Even the silences speak now. The patterns form without narrative. Control, isolation. Money moved like smoke. Apologies that weren't spoken, just transferred. Rooms where assistants weren't allowed. Phones left in baskets. Cars paid in cash. There's no single moment that damns him. No gun on the table. Just fingerprints. Thousands of them, smeared across the fabric of 20 years. And still, some don't testify. But they show up in other ways. A handwritten letter, an unsigned photograph of bruised knuckles, a journal entry mailed anonymously. I thought I was the only one. A witness takes the stand and says nothing about violence. She simply talks about control. How you're told where to sit, what to wear, when to smile, and what silence is worth. I wasn't afraid of him hitting me, she says. I was afraid of what would happen if I stopped pretending he wouldn't. At the back of the courtroom, Jennifer sits. This time not as a storm survivor, but as historian. She doesn't look at him. She looks at the floor plans. She listens to each name, and the myth of Diddy, once too big to collapse, is now too exposed to stand. No grand revelation, no single voice to take him down. Just the echo of too many truths finally aligning. The trial no longer asks if something happened. Now it asks, how many times did we look away? The air in the courthouse thickens, as if the walls themselves brace for what no one dares say aloud. Sean Combs, Diddy, once the titan whose name opened doors and commanded respect, now becomes a ghost slipping through cracks. He withdraws officially from all public appearances. The news arrives quietly, tucked between the morning updates like a footnote no one wants to read, but everyone must digest. No press conference, no dramatic exit. Just a press release from his legal team. Mr. Combs is focusing on his health and legal matters at this time. Outside, cameras linger, hungry for a glimpse, but he is nowhere to be found. His mansion stands dark, gates locked tight, security tightens, whispers thicken. But it's not Diddy's absence that shakes the day. It's the presence of another. A slender woman named Kim steps out of a black SUV. No entourage, no flashbulbs, just Kim, calm and deliberate. Her heels click sharply on the courthouse steps. the loudest sound in the hollow morning. She moves with purpose, weaving past reporters and courthouse staff with the grace of a shadow slipping through light. Inside, she pauses briefly in the hallway, directly across from Jennifer Lopez. Their eyes meet. No words pass between them, just a slow, weighted nod. A quiet acknowledgement that ripples beneath the surface. The nod that says, "This is no longer just about survival. This is about reckoning." In that fleeting exchange, Jennifer exhales. Not relief, not victory, but something heavier. A shifting of burdens, a passing of torches, a fracture in the silence that held everything in place for so long. Behind Jennifer's dark sunglasses, not for style, but for armor, her breath catches and then steadies. The weight she has carried begins to shift. The courtroom watches. Cameras capture every moment, but even the lenses cannot frame the gravity. At that moment, the legend of Diddy begins to unravel, not with noise, but with these quiet, deliberate steps. Meanwhile, Sean's mother arrives alone, her face lined with decades of resilience and sorrow. She does not speak to the press. Her eyes glisten, and as she slips into the courtroom, she carries the heavy secret of a family's fall. The defense team fractures further. Legal aides shuffle papers like they are burning with invisible fire. Text messages buzz under hushed breaths. The man who once commanded music and media has become the man everyone watches crumble, not with rage but with silence. And in the shadows of the courthouse, whispers turn into murmurs, murmurs into a chorus. Because finally, something is breaking loose, and no amount of fame, money, or power can hold it together. The final collapse is not a crash. It is a slow surrender, a reckoning written in footsteps, nods, and exhalations. The weight shifts, the silence fractures, and everything changes. The courthouse empties, the echoes of testimony fading into the quiet corridors of memory. No gavel falls, no verdict seals the story. Instead, there are only shadows, lingering questions hanging heavy in the air, unfinished sentences that refuse to be silenced. Jennifer Lopez steps away from the storm with a quiet grace. She returns to music, but without fanfare. No interviews, no press tours, no spotlight chasing. Her voice returns to the studio, soft and steady, carrying melodies touched by pain and survival, but never explanation. Outside the courthouse one gray afternoon, a reporter approaches her, camera poised, voice tentative. Was it worth it? The question hangs between them, delicate but loaded, like a thread pulling at the seams of everything left unsaid. Jennifer pauses. For a moment she looks away, her smile faint, delicate, but it doesn't quite reach her eyes. Her silence is an answer, as heavy as any confession. Then finally she speaks, her voice steady, carrying the weight of all that was endured, all that was left behind. Some truths aren't told to punish, some are told to finally breathe. Her words settle over the crowd like a whispered prayer, fragile yet fierce. The camera blinks once more before the frame fades to black. And in that silence, the story lingers, unfinished, unresolved, but alive. Because some rooms we never speak about are the ones we never leave.